Welcome back. Episode 30.
Up, shitbags. Episode 30. Welcome back. It's great to be here. Great to keep everything going. We won't keep talking about that stuff. We do it every time. Everybody knows. We know who we
Everybody
got.
knows.
Jobtown, Taylor's Tins, Toxic Suppression, Crew First Culture. Of course, wouldn't be here without you guys. That's what I was gonna do. I did have the rendering of the designs for our sweatshirts that Jobtown has made up, but by the time this is out, you got the order. Everything should be out. So hopefully that doesn't matter. You guys have already seen what it looks like, but they look pretty sweet. So go cop yourself a sweatshirt if you haven't already. Helps us out a lot. We wanted to start doing some things and giving back and looking towards the future. So that's what all that stuff's going for. So, but you guys are great for listening. Send in questions. We just talked about
Yeah.
it.
Send any questions. My brain hurts every
Yeah,
time.
that was an awful time. We're not that creative. So, but
Um,
all right. Without further ado, let's give the man of the hour in here. Let's let him share his knowledge and bring him in. We can't thank him enough for coming on. Let's bring in Chad.
What's up,
Welcome
guys?
on.
Thanks for
What's
having
up?
How's
me.
it going?
Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thanks for coming on. Well, Chad, why don't you give a little introduction about yourself? Tell everybody who you are.
Chad Gonwa. I grew up in a small town, southeast Wisconsin. My dad was a fireman for Belgium. Both my grandpas actually, two of my uncles. So got into the fire service that way, and then just kind of progressed. Started there, been in Waukegan, Illinois, which is just south of the border. Very similar size and demographics to Racine or Kenosha, if you guys are familiar with that. Been there for 22 years. And then currently, like I said in the little write-up, on the engine in the middle of the city. So it's kind of nice. We're like busiest engine in the city. We do about 12 to 13,000 calls a year. We'll probably be pushing closer to that 13 this year. It's a good mix. You know, we get a decent amount of fires, good car accidents. Lately, we weren't normally a wreck type town, but people drive like assholes there. So we get some decent wrecks, and then a lot of good medical calls too on top of it. So
Awesome. We'll mix everything.
yeah, a little bit.
Awesome. Well, our first question here is, where did you discover your passion for training?
I think, like, honestly, like it kind of started right away from the beginning at Belgium. Being in school, so I was just out of high school when I joined. I had to wait on the waiting list for Fox Valley Tech, so I was waiting for Sheboygan, or I was going through general eds at UW Sheboygan at the time. I don't that doesn't exist anymore. And going to a part-time or mostly volunteer type Fire One class, it was at the BIT in Milwaukee, and it was all city guys teaching it. And then some suburb guys mixed in. But right out of the gate and learning from those guys, it kind of said like, yeah, this is what I want to do. And then just kind of went from there, able to take different classes through the Belgian Fire Department, and then kind of continued that with Waukegan, and then obviously got really resurrected in 17, joining the Fools, and we have a lot of young guys and guys that got hired probably 2010, 2012 ish. So you guys probably know, and you talk to a lot of people. A lot of your training classes goes ups and downs throughout your career. So I was working two jobs. My wife was only working part-time at the time. So a lot of it I wasn't able to take as much as I would have liked to. These guys get hired, resurrect that back up, and then boom, for the last, 10, 12 years, been taking classes every year, like trying to keep up with the young guys, or actually try to make them keep up with me. I always tell them, I'm like, I want you guys to kick my ass, like kind of go that way. And it's been good. I've had
Awesome.
had the ability to take a lot of really good classes. Saw you at that one, Brendan, down at camp. That was awesome.
Yep, for sure. Yeah, we try to do at least 3 every year, 3 conferences. More this year, I think, because we have to get down to FDIC and stuff like that. So I love traveling and doing different classes, meeting different guys and girls.
Oh, yeah.
It's a blast.
That's
For
great,
sure.
man.
I actually just signed back up for the 50-hour rid under fire to take it again next year down at
Uh,
I mean, it's a lot nicer for us because it's a grant funded class for when you
yeah.
or work in Illinois. So it's not like I'm out a shit ton of money.
Yeah.
But I texted Justin McMenamin afterwards. And I was like, I'm going to try to get my ass kicked again next year. 27 years old. It'll be almost 10 years since I went there. And
Yeah.
nervous, but looking forward to it. And I know what to expect and still kind of.
Yeah.
I still want to do that one. I had to save up some pennies, but I want to get that class done for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. It's awesome. Those guys at Champaign are the best.
Mhm.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Next question. What piece of advice were you given on day one that stuck with you?
Dude, that's a tough one. I don't really know. Like, I don't really have like a day one type thing. Obviously, everybody hears the 2 ears and one mouth for a reason. Yeah. So listen and speak when it's appropriate. I kind of, back in the day, we kind of thought, or at least when I came on to Waukegan, we thought that a lot of guys knew more than what they actually did, and we kind of took that for granted in some aspects. And the mentorship program like wasn't what it is kind of now for young guys coming on. I'm sure there was something, but I really can't remember. I can't really remember it, but we had, and even at Belgium, like there's some guys that, they would just give you the advice about the same thing, listen, take it all in, speak when you're spoken to type thing. And yeah, so, I mean, that's really about it. And then I always like to tell guys, you're going to know the guys that you want and can listen to for really good advice. And then there's guys that you kind of want to stay away from. So.
Yeah.
Awesome.
You mentioned the mentorships, like maybe not back then, but how's that mentorship program now? Cause that's something that we've talked about before, that our shift really, when I was in Beaver Dam, got going, and it sounds like we're starting to work at where I'm at now, like developing that mentorship program. Cause I think it helps out that new member, especially being a new member with that, like leaps and bounds.
Yeah, I think it's we had a few guys that tried to start it back in the day by us, but it never really took any legs. Our new chief and our past training chief and our current training chief are all about it. And so we have everything kind of got put into a Google sheet, and all of our new guys coming on, they have certain skills, whether it's fire or EMS, and every 3 months they have to do those skills. We do a 3, 6, 9, 11 month evaluation, and just to see if they're progressing like appropriately, and don't have to see what remediation like may or may not have to be done. We used to go with one mentor being assigned to a specific guy, and then with vacations and time off, and a lot of those guys are junior guys, so they end up floating a lot, so they may not be at that station. So now we've gone to certain guys at every station. Our mentors have access to that spreadsheet or that Google sheet, so they can see if they get a new guy floating in, they can see what needs to be checked off, and all that. It's all kind of like additional training. Obviously, we have our scheduled training and that, and some days are a little bit lighter, so you can do stuff during the regular workday, but a lot of this stuff is done after 4 or 5 p.m. Knocking something out for a half hour to an hour, get some of those guys checked off on their quarterly skills. So we've kind of gone like that approach.
I like that. I like that. Yeah, like you said, having the one person, we've seen its benefits, but yeah, I can see, especially bigger houses or bigger departments with floating around and everything. Now it's a little bit harder, because I at least enjoyed, everybody says there's no such thing as a stupid question, but when you're brand new, you have stupid questions. So like only having one person to go to ask to was like helpful for me, so that only one person knew that I was asking stupid questions, instead of having to go to my captain or lieutenant and be like, hey, I don't. So right. I enjoyed that, but I think that works perfect. That having those other stations so that you know exactly who to go to. So that's awesome. I like that insight.
Yeah, and I think every station has two. Like our station one is like we don't call it a big house, but it's essentially a big house. We have 11 guys there every day. That's the shift minimum with truck, engine, rescue. Our rescues are our ambulances, and then the battalion's out of there. So I think that station has like 3 or 4 guys that are assigned to like actually mentors that could be for the new guys, and then all of our outlying stations have 5 guys at them for the most part. So there's maybe like 1 or 2 guys. Should be somebody there every day that could work with those new guys if they're floating in. So
that's awesome. Cool. I like that a lot.
Awesome. Yeah. All right. What conferences or trainings do you think every new firefighter should attend?
Coming down from Illinois, like we have call it almost like the big 4 that are, and we get ascertained merit for them if you choose to advance into taking promotional exams. So for us, it's Rid Under Fire, Smoke Divers, and Illinois Smoke Divers is a little bit different. It's not like the Indiana or the Georgia one. It's a 40-hour class. It's more of on SCBA conference type stuff. I'm trying to think what the other 2 are, but basically anything that puts on down at IFSI, their facilities are top notch. The instructors are top notch down there, and it's really, for us, it's not really that long of a drive. We're really, really lucky to have that within like 3 hours of us. Nationally, you can't go wrong with some of the classes at FDIC. I personally have actually only been to FDIC once. And I was fairly late in my career, but I took a class, skills and drills for like smaller departments or like similar cities to us, and it was put on by the Fishers, Indiana guys. That was awesome. I mean, some of those guys had been to Rid Under Fire, so the RIT scenario, like that was just a good refresher and that kind of thing. But different stuff for engine ops and truck ops and doing things more like with just 1 or 2 people, like where all of us work. Like you have to make more with less. On the fire ground for it to go well. And then there's so much other stuff down at FDIC. Like the options are just endless. So, depending on what kind of track you want to go. Any of the fools classes, I tell like our new guys, like we got, like even for us being on the northern side of Illinois, like our classes that we host at Bruce City they're not that far away. Southside does some stuff. There's a lot. Especially
there's a lot.
I think like everything now, like with what you guys are doing up at Old Fashioned, and bringing in that Sawdust City, and then I know BJ Breacher talks about the one out in Michigan and some of those guys that do some of those classes, like the Great Lakes Hot, and which like we're pretty fortunate in the Midwest where we can go to some pretty good stuff and kind of make a long weekend out of it and not feel like you're driving the whole time.
Yeah, right. Yeah. No, it's awesome. Yeah, the Rid Under Fire. I mean, I getting started on Bruce City, like that basement scenario. That's still, I think about it, kicks my ass. I still tell so many. We were just talking. I was out teaching yesterday, and somebody. It was a little volunteer department over on the north side of the state, and they were asking about places, and I was like, go down to Bruce City's Rid Under Fire and go down to their fundamentals. Like I haven't taken fundamentals, but if it's anything like RIT, so that kicked my ass, and I took that 3 times. Like, it is great.
Fundamentals. I was lucky enough to be there at the last one. The downside of that day, I think we did it in June or July, and it was just hot as shit that day. So even by the time that we were done with the morning evolutions, like some of the people were pretty gassed, just from doing that. Yeah. So, then by the time I think we ended up having to cut the fires a little bit short because of just safety type reasons.
Yeah.
And, so, but yeah, like the last RIT class was pretty good. We always get the fires hot, like some of those, like Campbell Sport and New Holstein Towers, like that second floor, like with the grate on there, that heat just comes up there. It's like,
yeah,
sorry, that heat comes up to that second floor. It's like, holy shit, man. It's toasty up here.
yeah. Doing
That's a
the
good-
basement fire with all that fire, like basement fire at the second story with all that fire below you. It's fucking hot.
Yeah. Yep.
That was awesome. That's a great course, though. We'll talk a little bit about fools later, though. But Brendan's got one more.
Awesome. This one has no context. You can take it however you want to. So it's kind of one of our favorite questions because we go in some deep holes. But why are we here? Is the question.
Why are we here? So this last, again, can kind of go on to a tangent about this. This last year, and I was able to go down. Yeah, this last year, and I was able to go down to the officer class at Fire Department Training Network. It's a little bit different, it's not like camp where you're in. It's a little bit of physical stuff, but you don't really run the scenarios out to full duration. It's more about fast acting, decision making type stuff. Like, what are you going to do? This is what you see. What are you going to do? And they kind of started out like when we sat down the first morning. They kind of started it out that way. And obviously, a lot of guys were like, we're here for them, and we hear about that all the time. And that is our number one priority. Like, we want fast stretches, fast aggressive searches to get in there and get us between those victims, so that way we're able to drag them out. And Timmy Klett is, obviously, you guys know him, probably have listened to him a little bit. He's like, well, what if the guy next to you goes down and you're still like, you got somebody there with you? Are you still here for them? You're here for them, talking like them. And like, he's like, bullshit, you're going to pull your guy out before you take the victim, so there are certain aspects of that. But yeah, I mean, we are here to protect lives or protect property, save lives. And I think the only way that you do that is by good quality training, being smart, aggressive, using the thing between both of our ears, and making good quality decisions that like, if you're doing that right, you are going to be there for them. So I think that's kind of like the aspect of it, but it was interesting. And that conversation down at that officer class, I mean, we were probably on it for like an hour just on that alone, because you had 40 people in the room, all with very, obviously. Bryce, have you ever taken a class down there?
I am not.
Yeah. So Brady, obviously,
Yeah.
Everybody down there is like-minded individuals. They spent a lot of money to go to a great class down there. So it's not like you're going to get, to use your slogan, it's not like you're going to get shitbags down there. Everybody down there is in it for the right reasons, So when you got a guy like Tim saying stuff and throwing us a curveball, and that's kind of like, I think that's kind of like how the whole class was going, they want to make us think about some of these things. So it was interesting, but yeah, that's why I think we're here. Like, obviously that's what we want to do. We want to be good at our job, and if we're good at our job, we're going to do the best for the people that we're serving.
Yeah.
Awesome.
That's kind of how I've always looked at that saying, is like we're here for them, is I'm saying I'm here for them. That means everybody. Like, I'm going to be the best firefighter that I can be with aggressive searches, because if I do all of that right, one, it should be helpful for the victims, and two, it's going to help my guys. Like, yeah, if Brennan goes in and doesn't come out, nobody's stopping me from going in. Like,
exactly right.
That's happening. And that's like, he's one of them. Like, if I am the best that I can be, that means the situation for everybody, for all of them, is going to be better whenever I, show up.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
That's kind of how I looked at the them always.
Yeah.
Right. And obviously now, like, and even when I got home from that, and you think about it, nobody kind of threw like that approach kind of out back at him. Obviously, you can Monday morning quarterback. You're like, oh shit, I should have said.
Yeah. You always have the best comebacks the day after. Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. I think how I've always seen it. I think the reason that so many people stress the them for the civilian though is like, I don't think there's many firefighters that question that what we would do for each other. Like that if your buddy went down, like, yeah, I know that guy, I live with that guy or girl. Like, I don't think many people question that. Right now, the hot topic is the civilian, the survivable, searchable, all that.
Yeah.
So but it is fun when people throw those curveballs because then you're like, you motherfucker, like you're gonna get this place going.
Yeah, we should have realized. I mean, everybody in the room should have realized, like, oh, this is how this class is gonna go. You know, it's like, this isn't more about a ball busting, physical type class. This is gonna be like one that's gonna mentally, you know, type stuff.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna throw out any of the scenarios of it because it would give it away because there's so many like little things where you think that went awesome, and then they say like, well, what'd you see? What'd you see here? What'd you see here? I'm like, I totally missed that. Then I guess that didn't go so well.
Yeah.
I want to take a couple more classes on there. It's on my bucket list. That's great, great classes.
Awesome.
Combat would be, you know, like before I retire to get down for combat. That would be awesome. You know, just none of us get the chance to go to fires like that or the amount of fires like that. You know, to just go down there for, I think it's like 4 days, 5 days. I don't know, you might know a little bit more, but yeah, that would be unbelievable.
I think it's a week or something like that, but they just like fires all day, every day, and you just get your ass kicked.
That's awesome.
Sounds pretty good.
Hell yeah.
It does sound awesome.
So next question, now that we're getting through the generic ones and into the more specific for you. First one we got for you, as you said, you help with junkyard extrication training. What is the most important advice about extrication that you can give a new firefighter?
Stabilization is key. Nobody really wants to do it, but it's like it's kind of like the redheaded stepchild of the extrication world. You know, like in order for things to go good, especially if you got to do any kind of dash work, you have to have good stabilization underneath those A-posts. Now, obviously, like, you know, you get those company officers or those actors that show up on scene. They got to do a good size up on these vehicles. Look for the badging. You know, like we're in a little bit lower demographic type area, so we don't have. I mean, there's obviously some EVs running around, but not like some of the higher end towns where they're everywhere, you know. But looking at the badging just to make sure, because like with junkyard and stuff, I've known Chris, the guy, I've known him for almost as long as I've been teaching at NIPSTA, and he's really gone taking this EV thing in the right direction. So I started out like I was on an early junkyard class, and then the schedules didn't really align, and now I've been able to help out with a few more recently. So good size ups, good stabilization before you get into the nuts and bolts of actually cutting somebody out and removing that material from them.
Yeah.
So extrication's been kind of like one of those things, like so I said earlier, where you know I was able to take some classes back in Belgium, you know, and that was like one of them. That was like took the 5-alarm class back when it was at the old 5-alarm in Fort Atkinson, like this old shitty building right downtown, and you know you have the original Hearst tool, the original Jaws of Life that are out there that are like these boat anchor things, you know, hooking up hydraulic lines and all that kind of stuff, and no struts, you know, airbags and cribbing, and you know it's really come a long way from you see them advertise now in the pictures that they present and the scenarios that they put on at their 5-alarm class compared to what I had. You know, that was probably joined Belgium in 97, so that was probably like 98, 99 when I had the opportunity to take that 5-alarm class back in the day. Yeah, it's come a long way.
Oh yeah,
Awesome.
That's awesome. Yeah, stabilization. That's key. I've been fortunate enough to help out one of my buddies. He created a farm rescue class and all about like extrication, and that was a big topic yesterday because one of the scenarios was very close to Like if we would have moved him a little bit, the guy would have been under the wheel, and like all of us were kind of scratching our head on this old tractor as to how we would lift without the whole thing pivoting. And someone was like, we might just have to stabilize and dig under. And it was like, hey, that'd be especially in a field that's going to work. But there you make your stabilization the glamour side, because it's got to be damn good to not sink down as much as tip. So
oh yeah,
it's cool. It's definitely an overlooked thing. That's stability. Everybody wants to get cutting right away, but especially with some of those situations, it's gotta get stabilized before you can do any of that.
Yeah, I saw the pictures that you posted. We do a very so in our VMT class, we do a very so Illinois has, and now they're changing the names of it, so I don't even know what the new name coming up is. But Illinois has a vehicle machinery operations course that we help out with, and it's a lot of the same junkyard guys that is the extrication cadre at NIPSA. So we do operations is more smaller vehicles, passenger cars, that kind of thing, and then VMT is more larger vehicles, trucks, buses, semis, that type thing. But in the VMT thing, we do flip over a tractor, like south of I-80. Illinois is very, very similar to northern Wisconsin. Very, very rural, a lot of farms and stuff. So yeah, we have a very, very. The picture looked almost identical. With the victim underneath there and the tractor that you had overturned. So familiar with that type thing, and it's fun listening to guys like how they kind of go through, because when you get into VMT, a lot of they get a little more senior guys and guys that are taking classes for the right reasons, so they stay on top of stuff. So it's fun listening to them think through it. And how they figure out that puzzle.
Yeah, absolutely. It definitely is. Extrication has become a very fun thing for me too. It's a puzzle.
Yeah, I'm sure Fond du Lac and Beaver Dam, like you guys, when you go, you guys probably go on more cut jobs than what we go. Like
we got a decent amount, especially in Beaver Dam. But yeah, we've had
a lot of traumas here. And now, I'm sorry, you go ahead.
No, we get a fair share. Like I said, people driving just I don't know why, but I had, and ours are just kind of like weird 25-mile-an-hour streets, and you get these unibody cars cut in half, basically with dudes in them, because they're going like 80. So.
Yeah, it's crazy.
We just had the opportunity. There's a new tow company that came in Beaver Dam, so they're setting up these crazy scenarios and stuff for us. So that's kind of pretty cool. So they have this I don't know, they have poles, but they're all, it's like a fire lane or whatever. But they shoved a car in there, so all the doors are trapped between these poles, and they're throwing shit on top of the car and another car and just stabilizing all that. And because I never really worked through scenarios like that until we went to Georgia, and it was kind of like the same type of scenarios they were working with. But they said they're grilling out for us, and they're setting up for every shift. So we had that great opportunity now too.
Yeah, that's
the guy like, hey, you want to cut some cars up today? Yeah, sure. He just sets up a crazy scenario for us out of the blue.
Yeah.
That's awesome. You can't beat it because you never know what you're going to run into. Even just so we get into a little bit of tunneling, and I know some of the fools classes that Jamie and Brian would set up, get into some tunneling type stuff, and some of the younger guys or newer guys, they're like, when are you ever going to need this? And you never know, and then you see there was a couple of years ago, and one of the guys working at NIPSA, it's awesome because I get to work with guys from, the busiest companies down in Chicago, and they're all want to get after it type stuff. So this dude pulls up this video clip from a wreck that they were on, and they were tunneling through the back end of an SUV that went into a park. So they got trees everywhere. One guy was a recovery, but then they were trying to get the other guy out, and somebody with, I don't know what he was thinking or whatever, and they caught it on camera. The news was there, caught it on camera, fires up K-12 to try to cut something while these guys are in, and it flashes on this. I'll probably try to send you guys a link or whatever if I can find it, but it's crazy. And they said it went really fast. The flash was there, and then it was gone. And yeah, it's just kind of crazy. Like you never know what you're going to run into. And then you get some knuckleheads that we work with that might do something on top of it to make it even more.
Yeah, because it was not until like kind of like Brendan was saying, because obviously not being down there didn't get that opportunity, but it was not until Georgia that I had even thought about or let alone practice stabilizing like another vehicle on top of one. And it's like that's not that, especially the ones they were doing in Georgia, they were doing like buses and shit. And it's like that's not that far fetched.
No.
Like, and I was like, that I'm very glad that this is the first time I'm thinking about it at a training. Because it's like all of ours have been, we got to stabilize it in the ditch because it's rolled over, you know, like, or it's a run under, so you just got to pull it back. Like, never thought about an actual vehicle tipping over on another, which happens frequently and probably will in my career. And it's like, wow, I never thought about that until that dude watching those wreckers tip the bus over on the cars, and you're like, oh fuck.
Yeah. I saw another video, and I wish YouTube pulled it, and I would use it like in my lecture. So with NHTSA, we do VMO, VMT, and then we do one VMO class that Waukegan hosts every year, mainly for our guys, but we open it up to the other people in the area or whatever and run it. We don't have a loader, so we can't really set up anything crazy, but I'll throw some, in the lecture portion, just do 1 day of lecture on Monday. I found this video where the guy wasn't hurt at all, but had a semi-trailer blow over on top of his car. So it was his cell phone video while the guys are trying to lift with airbags and try to lift this semi-trailer off of his car, stabilize it so they can pull it out. And the perspective was awesome. I don't know why YouTube would have taken down. The dude wasn't hurt. It didn't really show anything, maybe insurance purposes type stuff with a large vehicle, or who knows, but to see it from the inside was pretty cool.
That's awesome.
Sounds cool.
Yeah, you never think about that stuff either. Continuing on with the extrication standpoint, have you noticed a difference between the new battery tools that are coming out, and your hydraulic extrication tools?
Yeah.
Any friends?
Obviously, like the battery tools are better. Some of the stuff, like depending on what you're cutting, like the older hydraulic stuff may have had a little bit more power. Like some of the beefier ones like that were designed for like guardrails or heavier duty things. I haven't really had the opportunity to work with some of those, but definitely the battery, just the noise of the generator not running, the communication aspects of it is so much nicer. Between Fools classes and Junkyard and NHTSA and stuff, I've had the opportunity to, and what we run, I've had the opportunity to play with almost all of the different battery type tools. There's pros and cons to all of them. We run combi tools on all of our engines, so we can get a decent start on it. And then one of our engines is set up more of like a heavy rescue with full complement of tools on the north side of town, and then our truck has a full complement of tools on the south side of town. So just even seeing the limitations of the combi tools and getting stuff started with that. Like one of our lieutenants that was in charge of the small tools at the time had an opportunity to buy some of those demo ones. So we've had combi tools on our engines for 10 years now, along with Sawzall, so we can get a decent jump on stuff. But it's so much nicer with the battery tools. I'm not going to say name brands or anything like that, but there are definitely, like, if you're looking at stuff or shopping around tools, you gotta play with a lot of them before you make a giant purchase like that. There's pros and cons to all of them, but there's definitely more cons to some.
And that is the nice thing with like everyone is most of them have reps, if not all of them have reps that will, like, without question bring some out to you and let you try. Like that's their job. So you don't have to like be shopping around. Like you just reach out and they're like, yeah, we'll have someone come down. Like they're very everyone there. But that extrication course we keep talking about in Georgia was 8-hour day. And I think the batteries, like on the main tools we used, died like once. And it was really funny because it died right as someone was making a cut. And I don't know if they were like totally against battery, but they're like, oh, course, it always dies right when you need it. And the
It does.
instructor's like,
It does always seem to die right in the
the
middle.
instructor's
Yeah.
like, you've been using this for 4 hours, dude. He's like,
Yeah.
he's like, what extra cut job have you been on that you're going to be using this for 4 hours like you have been right now?
Oh,
Like,
right, exactly.
Oh, that's I guess that's a good point.
Yeah,
that was a good point.
Yeah, we beat the shit out of the tools in our classes. We run 4 VMOs a year, 2 VMTs a year, and we're running those same 3 or 4 sets of tools for the whole class, and all of them are battery powered. So, like on hotter days or those summer classes, like that's where you really, really see the limitations to the batteries, because they heat up, and then they don't charge for shit afterwards. But like you just said, like real world, you're not going to be going through that many. You're not going to have a job where you're going to, even if you get 45 minutes or an hour on, I mean, that's a long extrication. So yeah, everything. And what kind of tools do you guys run, or what tools do you guys run?
We run hydraulics yet. TNT.
Yeah.
I don't know whether.
Yeah. We
Yeah,
got the same thing. Our rescue has the pull out, and we got the portable generators. But it sounds like the next one is going to be hydraulics, the electronics we're looking at.
Yeah. So like all of our stuff, we have a spare battery for every tool. So like our truck and our engine 4 on the north side have 6 batteries with them, and then all of our other engines have 2 batteries, and then on top of that, if you were to get somewhere else some batteries go to shit just based on age or whatever, you thought they were good and find out that they're bad, you got the corded adapter, so you can still run them off of electric power or whatever to finish what you're doing.
Nice.
You're just tethered, so
yeah, nice. I like that.
I think we're looking at getting new battery operated tools with our new engine. We're trying to figure out what tools to get down here. So
not going to put them on that new tower.
No, I think they're waiting. I think we spent a little too much money with that tower.
Of course. I'm going to use this time to not shout out, but criticize our good friend BJ, because he commented on your post, and I thought he was sending in a question, but he basically just said that you're a rock solid guy, which we already knew. And so BJ, why couldn't you have made that a question? I mean, come on.
I appreciate it. Yeah. I'm surprised he was able to comment. I figured that he would be in the field somewhere, in the woods somewhere,
Yeah, he probably is. He's probably just missed the buckle by it. He's sitting through Facebook.
Yeah.
But he's been commenting on all of them. So BJ, make him a question next time. I've been seeing that. He's like, oh, this guy's a great guy. We know they're great guys. They said they'd come on. No, not shitbags don't want to come on this with us. So
Yeah.
Awesome. Our last question, like we said, we're going to talk a little bit about it. Sure, people are sick of hearing about it, but I don't give a shit, because I tell everybody they need to join and look into it. How did you discover the Fools?
So I knew Jamin Ingalls, who's town chief on Sheboygan. I grew up with him. Our dads were chiefs of Belgium. They're pretty good friends. Obviously it's a small town, so I've known Jamin forever. So he started sharing about their heavy lift class that they put on. Probably I don't even know how many years ago that one was, but it was probably in 16, because it was before I joined. Saw that was like my first introduction to them and what they're all about. So prior, like social media and stuff has really, really, I think, gotten the word out on what the Fools are actually all about, and back in the day, there was probably some stuff or like Bruce City was probably just a lot of Milwaukee guys, because they all work together or whatever, and it didn't really expand to what it is now. Same thing with Southside, and I know like Southside has a lot of suburb guys in there. It probably was a lot of city of Chicago guys type thing. So social media has really gotten the word about it, what they all are about. So saw this post on the Fools class for the heavy lifting one, went up there for that. I was like, oh man, this for $50 took pictures of the scenarios. I mean, like you can't beat it, like kind of like what we were talking about before with trucks and buses on top of cars and more stabilization type stuff. Dummies in every car, so you actually have an objective. I think a lot of times, and even in the classes that we run, we say like, this is what you got to do because you have victims here, but we don't really have a victim in there. And a part of that is we don't have the ability to set up the scenarios like what we were talking about, Brennan, with that tow company setting it up how you want it and really making it tough and crunching them down and really able to make a good quality scenario. That's what they put out. That product there. So that was like my introduction to it. And then, so that's also where I met Blatz for the first time, was at that class. Well, then, so they always ran that class in fall. So I bet it was fall of 16. Fast forward to February of 17 is when I took RIT for the first time. And I go down there and I was like, holy shit, Blatz is down here. It's like, I would have never guessed to see a familiar face. And at the time, Costco was stoking. He's an instructor, but he was stoking at the time. So saw a couple familiar faces, and then I knew like the Fool's Writ was coming up in April. So, and I'd wanted to go, but with just taking this and some other stuff, I never signed up for it. So I talked to Costco. He's like, hey, you gotta. I'm like, hey, I didn't sign up, but can I come up just to observe? Like when you're in the middle of the scenarios, at the RIT, whether it's the Bruce City one or the IFSI one, you can kind of get tunnel visioned with some of that stuff. So you don't really see like what other guys are doing and kind of learn from that observation. So I was like, hey, can I come up and just watch, not participate or whatever? I didn't pay for it. I know sign up is closed or the class is full. Cause like, I can't make a decision. I asked Blatz or whatever. So I asked Blatz. He's like, oh yeah, absolutely. He's like, we'd love to have you up there. He's like, but you're not just going to stand around, with your thumb up your ass. He's like, we're going to use you. You're like, you've been through this full 50-hour course. There's not that many guys up there that have done that. So, so yeah, that was it. In between there, I was able to go to a meeting, meet some other guys. That's where I officially met Brian for the first time, like in person, whatever. I talked to him before that, or message, whatever, on different things. But that's where I met Brian for the first time and just kind of like snowballed from there, and had that opportunity of that one RIT class there, and just was able to do stuff along the line since then. When JD was one of the training guys, set up a lot of some evening stuff with smaller departments or some weekend stuff. I was able to, my kids are a little bit older now, so like schedule, as busy it is, it's like certain times of the year. Other times I have a lot more free, so I was able to really help out. So you learn from every single class that you go to or whatever, so even though you're there, you watch some stuff, see what works well, what doesn't. So I mean, you're picking up from other guys too. So it's awesome.
Yeah. Awesome. Like you said, join your local Fools.
Yeah, for sure.
It's great.
For sure.
It's
great. I know, like, so we actually have, we got half day Fools now, which is, so there's this another younger guy. Well, I don't even know if he's younger. BJ was on his podcast. I can't remember.
Yeah.
Outlier Firefighters. So he's a Lake Zurich guy. And then, so some of those younger guys, like kind of between the border and Southside, or between Bruce City and Southside, they started Half Day Fools, which Half Day Road runs through the far south side of Lake County in Illinois. And so there's a buddy of mine from Highland Park, Jeff Marusic, who's battalion chief there. He's like one of their founding members. And then Alex Tanner is the guy that runs Outlier Firefighters. So like, so they started this Half Day Fools, which I was thinking about, like, I talked to Jeff about it. He's like, oh yeah, he's like, you got to join, So yeah, they're pretty much in the infancy stage. So I don't know if they've really hosted any classes type anything yet, but
it's hard. It's hard to because now I'm treasurer on Old Fashioned. Like it is a hard thing to get up and running. I have a lot of newfound respect, even more than I already had for Blatz and Justin. But yeah, it's a little bit hard to get going, but we're starting to push past it. It's great. They say apparently the international says most chapters fail before their first year, so we made it past there. They said after year 2 is when you really start seeing it moving well. So that's the hope.
Yeah, there you go. Can't really. Yeah, it was a good reminder for me to go reach out to those guys and see what they got going on down there and hit up a meeting. So
there you go. Awesome.
Okay.
All right. Well, that concludes all the questions that we have for you. The last 2 that we have before we wrap it up here is our question from a previous guest, which Brian, and then the question that you have to ask our next guest, who is my former Brennan's current Matt Weidler, W. So, question from Brian is, how do we get the rest of the masses to be more passionate like us?
that's a good one. Honestly, I think you can go at it like twofold, right? You could say a lot of the stuff starts from the top down and culture and change. And if you have a good culture from the top, the bottom will kind of pick up, and you're going to have your guys that no matter what you do, you're not going to get them right. Or you have it from the bottom up. If you hire and retain good quality people, and you kind of get rid of the ones that don't fit the mold, that's going to naturally get you in the right direction. Keeping the guys that want to get after it, want to train. So you kind of have 2 avenues that you can take about it. And I think it all starts at the company level, and if you have companies that like to do things extra, or like just it doesn't take a whole lot, like down in the officer class at FTTN, it's like quality over quantity, like some of these, they build out these elaborate drills that, are like an hour and a half, 2 hours long. And by the time they're done, guys forgot about what they learned at the beginning or what the whole point about it was. And then they get their asses completely kicked and they got to work another 20 hours in the shift if it's, a class at 9 or 10 in the morning. So, quality over quantity, and just try to hit the basics with these guys and try to get the culture going. I think that there's a few different ways that you can approach it, but if you can get the culture in that right direction, I think you'll get some of those guys that are on the fringe or whatever, and pull them in the right direction.
Yeah, it starts with 1. Like you said, it's nice of you could start with 2, but even if you got to start with 1, 2 will come soon. So just gotta be consistent. But yeah, I definitely like the top and the bottom. That works out well too. If you've got that kind of sandwich that meets in the middle, it goes even faster.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And then I'm sure you guys are seeing it, where you're at, we're seeing it, you're all fighting over the same people. We give preference points for medic and being hired and living in town and these certain things. And it's like, when I tested around, you had a lot more people that just wanted to do this job, where now it's like the numbers are down, trying to retain them. And trying to get people, the Chiefs just want to try to get numbers, where, I think the guys on the line want to get quality numbers. And our chief has done a really good job of kind of not keeping the guys that aren't fitting in or that are struggling, so even though like it's harder to get people and talk about recruitment and retention, even though it's harder, do you still want to retain somebody that's going to be a 30-year problem? And we've gone away from that, and a lot of places that used to fire guys have a change in administration, and now they're keeping everybody, and they're struggling a little bit. And if you retain those younger guys that have that good quality attitude, and we're we're in such a great spot, like right now, with that, and in the middle of a good quality culture shift in the right direction, with just guys wanting to get after it, take classes, good quality training in the firehouse. If we get an acquired structure type stuff. So
yeah, awesome. Well, yeah. Now our job is done. So the last thing is all for you. So you have to come up with a question for our next guest, like you said, Lieutenant Matt Weidler of Beaver Dam.
Lieutenant Matt Weidler of Beaver Dam.
Or Lieutenant Shitbag. I guess we called our Captain Shitbag, so he'd be Lieutenant Shitbag. So
that's probably the toughest question of the day. Kind of like why BJ just makes statements and not.
Yeah.
It's tough.
It is a tough one.
I think for you guys still one house department?
Yeah. Yep.
So, and that's a busy one house, right? So
Yeah. 30 was a 32 last year. 31.
yeah, that's
about average like eight day.
Yeah. Fuck.
It's our favorite part. That's why.
I'm sure it is.
This is why people got to send it in. If you come up with a question, just take that 2 seconds, send it in. We made it so easy. You can do it like 8 different ways. You know, you can leave a call, leave us a voicemail. I don't care. Whatever you do.
Brian left a really good one.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I think for you guys, you can kind of go along those same lines, like culture type stuff, but I'm gonna basically more like, so I'm gonna go with something on decision making. You know, like when you have limited manpower, limited resources coming, how do you divide your manpower to get the most bang for your buck?
Okay, I like that one.
And that definitely is something that we had to deal with when I was down there, and that they still do. I mean, if we have multiple med calls out, the staffing down there was you only had to have 2 full-timers at the station. So like you had to make sure there was 2. So there was many times in the history and many times I was there that either an alarm or maybe even actual fire came out and you had 2 people you were responding with immediately.
Yeah.
And that was it.
Yeah. I mean, that's tough. So like we are super fortunate, you know, like as long as most of the companies by us are in quarters, we get 15 guys working plus RIC ambulance and RIT engine. So
shit.
20, 21, 22 on a working still upgrade. That's how we took.
So you just douse the water on the way there, and all of you can stand around and piss it out.
Pretty much. Pretty much. I mean, you said like that one picture from that garage fire that I sent you guys or whatever. I did, you know, like the other pictures that I sent, you know, it's like you got 2 guys on 2 3/4, and that garage fire was pissing me off. I mean, stupid thing kicked my ass, like not physically, but it's like, oh, I think we got it. And then I walk around from the front to the back. We got most of the fire on the back. I walk around the front, it's blowing out that window. I was like, what the fuck? Just so frustrating. But you had a lot of guys standing in the driveway watching a nice orange glow with 2
sidewalk
guys.
Shepherds.
Yeah, 2 guys just waiting for them to knock this body of fire out, and then we can go back at it and overhaul this son of a bitch. But yeah, so we're very, very fortunate. We're
not getting that for like 30 minutes.
Yeah, right, exactly. So like the communities around us, you know, they're very, very similar. they, 6-man minimums, 7-man minimums, and got to do the same thing. We're not 30 minutes, because the population density and that kind of stuff for those smaller communities. So they're getting, we call it, or not me, those guys have like they call it a quad 1 north response or whatever. So then they're just getting an engine or a truck, an ambulance, and a couple chiefs from all those surrounding departments. So they're getting it in 10 to 15, where we're fortunate and lucky enough to get it in, 7, 8.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, that is all the questions that we have for you. Last section is just anything that you want to shout out. So either some trainings that you got going up, some trainings you're going to be at, anything you wanted to touch on, any people that you didn't get to talk about throughout the rest of it. And that's all we got for you.
No, I just thank you guys for having me on. I really appreciate it. This is the first time that I've ever had the opportunity to do anything like this. So it's, I appreciate that. I've been fortunate enough, like I said earlier, to be in the fire service for a while. And everywhere that from Belgium starting off, like small town volunteer department, but it was like, we had a good culture at the time of guys wanting to go after and get inside, put the fire out from the inside. I made my first roof when I was in Belgium, so like there's not many volunteer departments that make roofs. I was able to make my first roof out of 2.5 story, so I've just been really, really fortunate to have people along the way, start that process early and then continue it. I have really good officers at Waukegan, good training officers like through the back half or later, and now just the amount of guys that we have that really want to still do the job and do the job for the right reason. Like can't beat it. It's, the cliche of it being the best job in the world is not so much a cliche.
It's true. Oh, yeah, it's true.
It's true.
So
awesome.
Yeah, thanks for coming on.
Yeah, I appreciate it, guys.
No problem.
Thank you.
We can't thank you guys enough. Guest list, we got only 2 episodes left for this year, so that's gonna be awesome. We got Lieutenant Weidler and then just me and him. These are 2 shitbags. So we'll be announcing the guest list that episode. I think we got it figured out now. I think we have everybody set for next year, so it's looking pretty awesome. So yeah, thank you guys for watching. Chad, thanks for coming on, and as always, don't be a shitbag.
Yeah, thanks, Chad, for coming on. Don't be a shitbag.